and welcome to my June wrap up. I'm going to actually have 3 videos for you this week because I need to show you my June wrap up, my July TBR and also my June book haul. So it's like bonus video time this week. So make sure you are subscribed so that all of those land in your subscription feed. As usual, I'm going to break this down into ebooks, physical books and audiobooks that I read in the month of June. I was pretty good at sticking to my June TBR in terms of June releases. In terms of that other books I want to get to section, which is always a bit interchangeable anyway, wasn't so good. Like, lots of those changed. I will start with my ebooks, and if I have written reviews for any of these or done video reviews for any of these, I will link them either in the description box or up here, so make sure you follow those if you want to know more of my thoughts on these, because otherwise this would be a massively long video. So ebooks I read on my Kindle. Firstly, I read Holly Bourne's How Do You Like Me Now? I included this in my 5-star reads video, which I will link up here for you to peruse. I also read Bookshop Girl by Chloe Coles, which is the start of a new YA series about a girl who works in a bookshop, written by a girl who works in a bookshop. So amazing. Love this book so much. My review will be below. Then I read Daisy's Vintage Cornish Campervan by Ali McNamara. This one is set in Cornwall and I have a written review which I will link down below. I also read The Man Who Didn't Call by Rosie Walsh. This is already out in the UK and is going to be released this month, July, in the US under the title Ghosted. And if you think it is just about a guy who didn't call, whoa, you are so wrong. There is so much more to it than that. I talked about this one in my 5-star review videos, so definitely go and check that out if you want to hear more of my thoughts, because I loved it. I also read The Single Mum's Mansion by Janet Hoggarth. I have a written review of this one on my blog, so I will leave it down below. And I just finished Make or Break by Benetto, which I will have a written review on my blog because I am on the blog tour for this one. This review will be on my blog on the 11th of July. This one is released in paperback in the UK on the 12th of July, but it's already out in ebook. So if you want to read this one, you can download it on your Kindle right now. It also comes out on audiobook on the 12th of July. I loved the audiobook of How Not to Fall in Love, actually, which I will leave a link to my review up here because it was hilarious and amazing and funny. So you should definitely go and check that out. Okay, let's move on to some physical books because I have the physical books here. Let me check my list that I've got in front of me. I think I have all the physical books I read right here. Yes, I do. Yay! So I think 2 of these were actually, no, 3 of these were actually on my TBR. I read 1,000 Perfect Notes. This is a proof copy. So it's got this double thing going on. I read this on its release date on the 1st of June. No, did it come out on the 1st of June? Yes, it came out on the 1st of June. So I read it on its, no, 30th of May. I read it on the 1st of June. And I read it all in one sitting on my plane to BookCon. And I'm glad I read it all in one sitting because this book builds a lot of tension, and so reading it all at once, you get all that tension and all that kind of like, oh, I don't know, like, I want to say nastiness, but I don't mean nastiness. There's kind of a sort of abusive mother thing going on here, and you get that all the things that she asks of our main character, all of the things that she tells our main character that they aren't good enough, all of the things, all of the ways that she neglects our main character, it all builds up and up and up. So I really recommend this one, and I really recommend doing it in one sitting if you can, because I really enjoyed doing it that way. It matches my lipstick. Then my reread for this month, which changed from what my reread was going to be because the movie for this one came out on Netflix, so I knew I had to reread it, and that was The Kissing Booth by Beth Reekles. I read this in 2013, so I read this 5 years ago, and I have a review on my blog. It's a very old review, but for a long time it was the most viewed review on my blog. I may update this, and I will be making a book versus movie video coming up for you probably next week on the blog, because the reason I reread it was because the movie's out on Netflix and I wanted to do a book versus movie. So I will share my thoughts further on that with you in that video. So again, make sure you're subscribed so that that video lands in your subscription feed, because it's going to be a good one. Then I read a couple of poetry books this month. Oh, I read one on my Kindle that I haven't told you about. I read one poetry book on my Kindle called She Must Be Mad, and this one comes out on the 12th of July, and was a mixture of poetry and prose, and it was it's split into love and mind. And it's very, very topical. We have things to do with social media on there. We have things to do with the way people can be in public versus in private to do with love. We have the stigma surrounding mental health in there. And I read it all in one sitting. Safe to say all these poetry books I read in one sitting. I need to add that to my blog post because didn't list that in my June wrap up apparently. So I read this book which is by Andrea Gibson, called Take Me With You, and this is meant to be like a pocket book of poems that you can take with you, and again this book is split into different sections such as love and other things, and for a paperback it has end pages which are just to die for. I particularly love the little dog in this end page here, and I did flag a few things that I just loved, either because of the illustrations or because of the words. I like this one in particular. It says, "You'll never have to lose yourself to win me over." I think that one's beautiful. I wish someone would say that to me. And then this one here, I just really like the illustration and also the words that go with it. This morning I saw her lipstick on a coffee cup and felt like I had never known a bruise, which I think is really, really profound. Those are obviously from the love section. And then I flagged this one because this poem, we have to create, it's the only thing louder than destruction, and I think it just goes so well with the illustration. Then I flagged one more. I like this one. "You keep worrying, you're taking up too much space. I wish you'd let yourself be the Milky Way." And I like the fact that this is on a like space themed page as well. So yeah, this one was a bit of a try before you buy type of book, so I'm definitely going to be picking this one up. And I found out that this is also a local author, so that's exciting. Then another poetry book that I picked up, which I saw in the shops when I was book shopping in Montreal, and looked to see if my library had it. They had it, so I went and picked it up, and that is For Everyone by Jason Reynolds. You might remember last month I read A Long Way Down, is that what it's called? Or The Way Down? By Jason Reynolds, the one about him being in an elevator, which is written mainly in verse as well. And so I was like, yes, I like the sound of this one. I admit that I had a flick through it in the bookshop, but again, it's a lot of kind of verse and is written in different sections, and this one is written in letter form, and he explains how he wrote it in the beginning, and then because it's letters written for today's world, for everyone, so again very, very topical, he's got pass it on, so you're meant to buy it and then pass it on to people, and it's got the to and the from at the beginning. So this one again was a little bit of a try before you buy. I really love the cover of this one as well, and it says, "This is for the courageous and everyone who wants to be." and I like that message on the back. So yeah, I like spattering some poetry in between my novel reading and my novel listening, and I like reading poetry before bed, I've discovered, so you can expect some more poetry on my July TBR. Then a book that I made a whole video talking about, so I will leave that one linked up here, and that is Final Draft by Riley Redgate. You can go and check out that video for my thoughts on this one. This one was released on the 12th and 14th of June in the US and the UK. And then finally, I feel like this one was on my TBR 2 months running, but it might be that it was just on this month. This month has felt really long. I read Royals by Rachel Hawkins. It was just a really fun read. It was something to escape with for a little bit, because some of it was a little bit far-fetched, and some of it you're like, would this really happen? Possibly, I don't know. It was exciting. Some of it was set in Edinburgh and some of it was set in Florida, and I just really like the kind of juxtaposition between those two locations. Very, very different. But yeah, I read this one. I haven't reviewed it yet, so keep an eye out on my blog for a review of this one. And then we have audiobooks. I have a couple of audiobooks that I have the physical copies of here. I read Everless by Sara, Holland, and I listened to this one on audiobook, even though I did have a lovely UK proof edition of this one. The paperback for this one came out in the UK on the 28th of June, and I made a video with my review and an interview with the author, so go and check that out for my thoughts and little insights from Sara Holland that'll definitely make you want to read the book like it made me want to read the book. And then I also listened to Love and Luck by Jenna Welch, who is the author of Love and Gelato from last year. I really enjoyed reading Love and Gelato last year. Love and Luck I struggled with a little bit. I haven't reviewed it yet because I'm still kind of thinking about my thoughts and gathering them on this book, because it just felt a little bit lacking. It felt a little bit meh. It felt a little bit like, give me more, give me some more substance. There's stuff going on here, but we're not really seeing the consequences of all these actions. Yeah. And then the fact that it was set in Ireland, and some of the things that some of the supposedly Irish characters did and said, I was a bit like, I'm not sure that's that realistic. So yeah, it was definitely a very kind of middly of the road book for me, unfortunately. But I haven't written a review of it yet because I'm kind of bringing all my thoughts together. Then I listened to and loved The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I'd been waiting on a waiting list. I had like the waiting list for the physical book and the audiobook, and the audiobook came up first, and it was a really well done audiobook. I'm so glad I listened to this book in Pride Month as well, because it has a lot of diverse relationships in it, which was really good to read for a sort of adult fiction novel. Yeah, I was really pleased I read that. And then I also listened to 2 Bill Bryson novels. You may remember started listening to The Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Kid, which is like here on my shelf, so I'm not going to dig that out. I believe at the start of the year, but then we didn't ever go back to it because I had it on loan from the library. No, we actually started listening to it in November, I think, on our Vegas trip. And then I ended up buying it from Audible, so we listened to it on our road trip up through New York up to Canada. And we also listened to A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. I've seen so many different covers for this book. I've seen one with just a bear on the front, like a photo of a bear. I've seen one with like the target on the front, and then this is a very different one, but it matches my other Bill Bryson hardback, so I like this one. This one was like really quite scary because of all the mention of bears and all the bear stories that Bill Bryson talks about. So it made me really quite uncomfortable. But I love the parts where he was walking with his friend. I thought those parts were definitely the funniest. The parts where he was on his own weren't as funny. They were more informational. But the parts where he was walking with cats was just so, so funny. And we enjoyed both of these Bill Bryson audiobooks that we listened to. Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Kid was read by him, and A Walk in the Woods was read by somebody that sounds really quite like him, that reads about half of his audiobooks that he doesn't read himself. But I love when he narrates his own audiobooks. Very, very funny. Then I also listened to 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher, so that I could finally get round to doing a book versus TV show on this one. So again, make sure you're subscribed so that you can hear my thoughts. I have started watching the TV show, but it's quite a lot of episodes and they're quite long, so I haven't finished. I've only watched the first 2 so far, so that will be coming up again, hopefully as soon as I can finish watching them on my channel. There will be a book versus TV show on that one. And then another one that I listened to on audiobook, promise this is the final one, I listened to Brain on Fire by Susannah Cahalan, and is that how I pronounce it? Yeah, I should remember. She, you know, the narrator pronounces it in the book several times. This is a story of somebody who has well, she has a whole host of things wrong with her, and we kind of follow her trying to find out exactly what it is that's wrong with her and exactly the treatment that she has. And it has just been made into a movie on Netflix as well, which I will be making a book versus movie on this one. So this will be coming up again hopefully next week on my channel. I'm thinking of doing a whole week of book versus movie films on my channel, because I have like 4 of them ready to go, because I've read books for movies, so that I can watch them and do a comparison. So if you'd like to see just a whole week of them on my channel, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If not, I'll try and intersperse them with other things going on. So yes, that is the end of my June wrap up. I've gone as quickly as I possibly could. You may have seen that there are books missing from there, but I managed almost all of my June releases books, managed to read them all, and I also managed to do a reread this month, which is different from the reread I'd originally planned, but then the movie came out and I knew I wanted to reread this one, so I went and bought it and reread it, which is always an interesting experience. But yeah, I think it didn't go too badly, and I've got links to plenty of reviews for these books for you, and book versus movie is coming up. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. As I say, let me know in comments your thoughts on my books versus movie, or else what you read in June, your favourite book that you read in the month of June. And I will be back with my next video, which will be my July TBR, so make sure you're subscribed for that one, and I will see you then. Bye.